this computer. There we go. So today is Sunday, 29th July, 2018. This is session 6 of an 8-session storytelling workshop. And we're going to be discussing participants' stories today. And I thought we'd begin by discussing a topic that came up in my discussion with you, Vani. We were discussing using stories to make a point, many times in the business world, people will make a speech and use stories to make a point, to illustrate the point, to drive the point home, as they say. And a question that comes up is, in many stories, stories are complex. There's a number of things happening in a story. So there's a danger when one tells a story that you, the speech maker, may see a certain point in the story, and you might see how it relates to the point that you want to make, but I, the listener, might get a totally different takeaway from that story. And it might not only, in my mind, not apply to the speech, it might be a big distraction away from the speech. So I don't know exactly how to handle this, except to say, I think I sent in an email, when you're preparing for a speech like this, choose a number of different stories that you might use. And then practice telling them to yourself, to friends, and feel them out and get feedback and see if any of them seem to be distracting from the point that you want to make. Vani, I'll give a brief summary of what we discussed. The point that Vani wanted to make in a speech was seize the day. The Latin is carpe diem, seize the day, which is also expressed in other sayings like make hay while the sun shines, take advantage of an opportunity. So the story that she wrote, good morning, Seema, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can.
Good. Yes, we can hear you too. Okay. So she wrote a story about going to an amusement park, a water amusement park, and there were a number of water slides, including one that was a tube. So when you go into it, you cannot see the sky because you're in the tube. So when I read that, I immediately got scared because I'm claustrophobic, and if I go in a tube like that, I feel trapped, and I'm always afraid, what happens if I get caught halfway down and stop sliding? So she also was a little cautious about doing it. She was at the amusement park with her friends, and they said, oh, come on, Vani, let's have fun. Don't be a stick in the mud. Don't be afraid. So then finally Vani said, okay, I'll face my fears and I'll do it. So she went into the thing, and you were on a sort of a floater, yeah? And sure enough, halfway down, inside this tube, the floater kind of went sideways or something, and she got stuck. And then one of her friends came down behind her, and she kicked you in the back. She pushed Vani to try to free you.
Because she was sliding, she pushed with her legs.
Yes.
I can slide.
Yeah, which it could have been painful, and especially if it might have been somebody else, not your friend, it could have been painful. But as it was, her friend pushed her with her hands, pushed her with her legs, and her floater was dislodged, and she completed the slide and went down and landed in a pool But then the second problem was you say you don't swim that well. So there she was in a pool, a big pool, where not being able to swim, but fortunately somebody took you out. Okay, so she told this story to make the point, don't be afraid, face your fears, seize the day. And she said afterwards she felt happy and proud that she did it. But I, the reader, I was terrified by this story. And it reminded me, I was saying before, myself and my daughter, we went on a ride once, and I was scared out of my life. So I, a sample reader, was totally distracted from the point that you wanted to make because I got a different point at it. So does anyone have any suggestions on how to handle a situation like this? Bonnie, why don't you say something? I'll go on mute and...
Well, actually, I had narrated the story in an open mic personal narrative event.
Put your speaker on mute.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's clear.
You all can hear me?
Yeah. Yes, yes, go ahead.
I had narrated this particular story in an open mic personal narrative event, and the theme was Carpe Diem, live in the moment. So I thought after I faced my fears, both of dizzying heights, one, because the slide was really tall. So I had fear of heights, and I thought I'll face this time. And next, I didn't know how to swim. So I thought I had the floater. So let me try this. Anyway, there are almost 50 people around, so nothing can go wrong. So that was what I thought. And in spite of all this, there were so many hiccups. I came out of the floater. I was stuck inside the slide. And I had a good fortune because it was my friend right behind me who pushed me and not some goon-like stranger. And yes, that was not the end of the woods because without the floater, I went directly inside the water. I didn't know how to swim and I wasn't even thoughtful because I didn't even hold my breath. So water entered my nose, eyes, ears, and for a split second, I thought I was drowning. That's it, end of my life. But in no time, the lifeguard was just beside me. He pulled me out. And so what I learned after this was, it is okay to face your fears. Of course, there will be so many hurdles in the way, but once in a while, you can try something new, come out of your zone of inhibition. That was what I felt after the incident. But Sir had a totally different but valid point. He says these amusement parks are meant mainly for minting money out of these customers, and it is a totally different way of, trying to push people around. It's a scary thing because you might put your life, in risk and all. So maybe there are no safety measures, not enough safety measures. So that was Sir's point. So we had a discussion how to deal when there's a theme and how we are supposed to narrate a story.
Maybe you could hint at the theme you're trying to convey before you start your story in order for people to condition themselves to okay, going along that flow. Like start by saying you're scared of heights and you're something along those lines, and then maybe because then people like, okay, so she was scared of something and she's doing this. Now let's see what happens. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to give a hint. Any story that you tell, it's good to tell the title and maybe give a hint what you intend for it to be about. But you have to be ready that your audience members will take it a different way. Does anyone have any other stories that relate to this point of seize the day, make hay while the sun shines, take advantage of an opportunity when it comes? Opportunity, what are these? These sayings indicate that many people have thought about this issue, and they're giving us advice. Our culture, our language, is a repository of advice. So something about, you only make one, first impression, or opportunity knocks, something about opportunity knocks. You have to be ready for opportunities. But at the same time, we get the opposite message from proverbs like look before you leap, and a fool and his money are soon parted, and a sucker is born every day. Pardon my expression. And we get conflicting messages from the culture about it.
Eric, not exactly a story, but it's a real life incident. I haven't framed it, so I'll just narrate it. My mother always had a fear of water. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So, and she, even to go for swimming, she would say she would feel that we will drown. And it was such a deep-seated fear, and we heard about it ever since we were kids, that, it kind of settled in us. And I never learned how to swim properly. Even though I tried many times to learn swimming, I just could not. I can kind of thrash my arms and legs to save my life for a little while. That's all I can do even now. But around 3 years back, my friends planned a trip. And they said that let's go river rafting.
1 second. We're hearing echoes. I don't know. We're all hearing echoes.
Hearing echoes.
Even I can hear it.
Oh, I need to mute myself. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, clear.
All right. So they said, let's go river rafting. And this would be really exciting. And it was end of Jan when it is freezing cold. And I thought to myself that, would I want to do this or no? River rafting, what if I drown? And Ganges, that belt is Rishikesh, is known for people having accidents. Like you said, you could just lose something and that would be your own life. So, but then I thought that maybe this would be an opportunity for me to get over this fear. Maybe. So why don't I go and I'll decide there whether I want to go rafting or no. And I did go for that trip with 5 other friends. And it was quite exciting. They told us that we would be safe and they gave us all those vests and everything, all the protective gear. And we all dressed up and clicked many pictures. And we all sat in the boat, in single boat. But it was really difficult, even to row that boat. And finally, in the middle of the river, this guy said, this is your only opportunity to feel a rapid, which is still gentle. So why don't you jump in the river? And I was like, how can I jump in the river? So he said, we'll tie you with a rope. And this friend of mine said, let's jump. And I thought, this is my greatest fear, actually, that if I'll actually drown. And if there is a rope, they will pull me up and nothing will happen. So I also tried, and I went to the edge of that little boat, and I could not jump. So I told him, just push me. And he pushed me in the river. And I held on, clung basically to the edge of that boat. And then the rapid struck. And rapid is terrible. Never ever get down. You'll feel as if you're being hit by the worst of the school teachers possible. Okay? And it's like slapping you. And then finally he pulled us back in. And I thought I survived, I lived through this. And then the calm part of Ganges started. And with the same rope, tied around me and another rope around my friend, both of us went into the river and we just floated. That river, same river, which was so terrifying. It would have been so deep. That day, I just felt that I trust you. For the first time, I actually said, I trust you, I trust you, river. I trust you, Mother Nature. You will protect me. Nothing will happen. And actually, nothing happened. And I thought that would be the highlight of my life, okay? Till we reached another place. And this guide said, we have to get off here on the rocks. And if you want to make sure that your river rafting trip is complete, you have to do free fall from the, that height, that cliff, nothing binding you. And you have to just jump from there in the water. And I thought, oh my God, this is really crazy. 2 of my friends out of those, point blank refused that we are not going. And this other friend of mine who had gone into the water and another one, they said, okay, Rennie and Swati, they said, okay, let's go and see. So we went up, we stood on that rock, we kept on assessing, you know, how deep it is. It would be like third floor of a building, and or maybe more. Okay. And there was just water. There was no one there, no guide, no coach, nothing. You just wear a life, whatever jacket, and you jump. And you trust that the life jacket will not fail you. Okay. So I stood there. I wanted to jump, but my feet, you know, I wanted, but my feet, the body, the desire to preserve yourself is so strong. I realized that day. My feet just would not leave that rock. You know, it was as if they were gripping the rock and I could not jump. And then suddenly we saw that one man, one of the guides pushed one man into the water and he fell flat and he got very badly hurt. So we were told that if you want to jump, you know, in the water like this, you know, like a straight kind of a wall, and you should just fall in like this. It should be like this. So I looked at the opposite, the opposite side of the river, and I saw another mountain there. And I remembered that when I was in grade 4, my swimming teacher had told me once that you just jump in water, you don't think. And at the same time, my friend Rennie said that just forget everything, forget the world, forget your children, forget everything, and just jump. And I don't know what happened. I jumped straight, you know, and I jumped like a pro. It was like as if I've done that jumping throughout my life. And I went in and I was so calm. I just thought I will come up. And I did come up. And somehow I, you know, went to the, that shore, and I climbed up on those rocks. It was quite an impact. And then I said, this time I was... scared. I have cleaned just for my fear. So I went back up and I jumped. Okay. And because of me, there were 4 other people who jumped. And I felt really good. I would have jumped another time, but I didn't have any energy left. So I thought, you know, I will only get over my fear of, you know, being in the water, the river, you know. But this was like even more than that for me. So it wouldn't have happened if these friends had not presented this opportunity. And for me, it worked out well. For someone else, it could have been like, you know, a dangerous thing. And when I came back home, I was so excited and I told my son that, you know, I did this. And he said, so what? I did it in grade 7. That's what we did on a trip. So it sometimes, you know, it's your own fear which kind of blocks you. And in some way, it liberated me. Even now, when I think of Ganges, going back to Rishikesh, it is not just sitting on that Ganga for seeing the Aarti. It is also to, you know, do river rafting and just that experience of jumping once more. That's all.
Okay. Now put yourself, turn off your speaker. Okay, so in your case, just like in Vani's case, it worked out okay. And it was a liberating experience. But again,
and
I
the
guess...
life jacket.
Go ahead.
But it was just because of the life jacket which was there. And they showed us that this will make you float. Otherwise, I would not have done it without the life jacket.
Okay, well, I guess I'm just a conservative person. Because what comes to my mind is... there are spiritual leaders. There are, especially in the USA, there are kind of new age personality coaches, motivational speakers who have big meetings, and sometimes they borrow activities from Native Americans, like sitting in a sweat lodge in a very hot place. And once in a while it comes on the news that somebody died because they are not doing it with the full wisdom and understanding and experience that the Native Americans had. They're doing it in some new way, and some people die from the heat. Likewise, a practice that's relatively common in this motivational business world is walking on hot coals. which is a religious practice. It's still done here in India. And here in India, people know how to do it. Either their feet are very calloused, or maybe they put water or oil on their feet. Somehow they don't get, also with the help of the god, somehow they don't get hurt. But when people come out of the IBM office and do this, many times they burn their feet, they fall down, they get burned all over their body. So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis, whether it would be more wise to avoid this activity altogether, or it's wise to face your fear and overcome it.
There was a news item very recently in Tamil Nadu, wasn't there? There was a news item where there was a disaster management class being held in a school, and as a part of that class, actually that was terrible though. It was being conducted. Apparently, the coach was finally not trained. They said they were trained, and the point of the class was you have to learn how to manage disasters. So there was a group of people who were actually holding a safety net, like below on the ground floor of a building, and there was a girl. They pushed a girl up off the roof, saying as a demonstration, saying that if somebody falls, you have to hold the net like this. But something went wrong, and the girl hit something before she fell, and she ended up dying. It was terrible. We can't hear you. Janet, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you can hear me. No, he was not a trained guy. And
Yeah,
he had a fake ID, I think so. And he was doing this in many places. And finally he got caught. And this girl died.
He finally was.
Yeah.
But this
This is
so
a true story, but this
Yes.
happened.
It is miserable because the poor girl lost her life for no fault of hers
Yeah.
during a disaster training program.
During a disaster training program, that was the worst.
Yes.
The other trekking incident also, where a group of people went trekking, and then suddenly they all died. Then the fire, there was some fire and
They
something
didn't die,
happened,
but they got
and they fell.
rescued.
They said that they got trapped in a ditch.
Yes.
They had fallen into a ditch, and then there was fire, and then
No, they were rescued. They didn't die.
not all of them were rescued. Only a few. Most of them died, and the train, of course, is absconding. They could not get him. So that is another case
Yes.
of failed attempts.
But if no one will attempt, then no one would have climbed Mount Everest.
Yes, but you
No
have
one
to,
would have done deep sea diving.
but you
On a
have
happier note,
But you have to know what you think and what you are willing to, how far are you willing to go. Don't go against your instinct. If you feel it from within, it's a different thing. Then be prepared for everything. But don't go against. Don't be forced by someone else to do it.
yes.
That would be
yeah.
And
or just for the sake of pleasing others, or
Peer pressure.
influence. Don't do it. If you really want to do it for yourself, it's different.
Also, all the safety processes must be followed. There is no.
Exactly.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Even if you have a little fear, at least you're all protected, and things can't go terribly wrong.
okay, so if we wanted to make a speech about follow your own voice, follow your own self, do not be pushed into things by other people.
Yeah.
All of these stories would be great illustrations, because in some case the person was pushed, in some cases the person decided to do it herself. These would be good stories to illustrate both sides of the possibility, and it would lead to a good discussion.
And maybe Eric, one could actually do a tandem storytelling. One could did tandem storytelling in which one part, a paragraph, one narrator tells about positive, and the other narrator, speaks from the other point of view about the tragedy. So so success and failure. Maybe that could be nice way of doing a story like that.
My daughter is
unmute.
No, my daughter is very adventurous. So she goes in for many of these things. Like she has done skydiving from ski in Dubai. She has done skydiving. It's 20,000 feet. She has done that. She does bungee jumping. She has gone to Canada. There's the tallest tower in Canada where you have to walk on the edge. You are just there. They belt you and they connect you to the center.
Yes.
And you have to walk on the edge of the tower. That's the tallest tower in Canada.
Yes.
And 6 of them were supposed to go together. But by the time she finished her work and landed there, she was the only one. But she went. She's quite fearless, I think. So she went, she did the walk on her
Edge
own.
walking.
And she also asked them whether she can do bungee jumping from there. And they said, no, it's not allowed. It's not allowed. So she does many of these things. The water also like that. Every month she has to do something. And so far, I'm talking on the positive side, successful side. It was all fine. And she still tries to go in for all these adventure sports, it's called. So she goes for that. I wouldn't go. I'm scared.
I think it depends. Some people get that adrenaline rush.
They have that in them.
They want it. Once they conquer it, they want it. They feel like it's okay. Even if you're putting your life in danger, I want to do this. Some people have it. I am more of the conservative sort because though I chose to ride on that water slide, I made sure all my friends were around. That lifeguard was beside me. And yeah, even if I get stuck, I know people will come looking for me. So that was, minimum risk.
No, well, I don't know. There is a place for everything. That is what I feel. Even when you want adventures, maybe that is a very healthy feeling. But still, there is a place for everything. When you look at the traffic in Chennai, specifically in OMR and places like that, and when you see people riding two-wheelers, they do it for thrill.
Yeah.
They do it for thrill. They move very close to buses. If it is a second, they will be, caught into the wheels of the bus. But they have a thrill in escaping. It might work at times, but if it doesn't work, it may not work at one point of time. So I feel that you need a lot of training, and there is a place. Why don't you go for dirt bike riding and all? If you do want thrills, you go for dirt bike riding. That's a race, and there you are expected to do that. You are expected to fall. You are expected to get up. You are trained for that. So why don't you do that over there and spare us at least? Spare us, conservative people who just want to ride on a vehicle and just want to go home. Instead of witnessing an accident, be part of an accident, all that. And so that is what I feel, that adventure is all it's all very good actually. When Jeanette was explaining about her daughter, I was impressed, very impressed. But her daughter is trained. There is a feeling, all that. You can climb the tallest flats in the world and start bungee jumping. Just for thrill. That is what I felt. Hello? Can you hear me?
One more incident is when we went to China, to Beijing, the Great Wall of China. So we had to climb the Great Wall of China, and they have these, what do you say? You sit in those things and you go up. What is that?
Cable car.
Cable cars.
Yeah.
The cable cars are there to take you up to the whatever highest point that you want. And but there is a certain time. By 5:30, everybody should come down. Nobody stays on that place. You have to come down. So we had to rush back. We had to walk all the way back to this same point. We had to walk all the way back to the same point and then take the cable car. Or there is another one which is called I think it's the Tabango or whatever. It is on the mountains. It is a like road cut around the mountains, and then you have to sit down flat. It's fixed on that thing. You sit and you have a lever in front of you. If you push that lever in front, you go faster. If you pull it back, you go slower. So we had the cable car was not there, so we had to take this, and we had paid for it, and we had to take. I usually did not want to go on this at all, but there was no other way, so I had to sit. And all the way I had to pull the lever back and go very slow. And I was making all the other people behind me also to come slow down the mountain, because I saw before me some people, some boys who were going, and they were just flying across that road. You know, they were going so fast. It's not a straight thing, it's a circular.
Yes.
And when you go so fast, there's a chance that you can fall off. And there is a huge board which is put there saying it is dangerous. So that means if you are taking this, it is at your own risks. And so I did not want to go fast, very, 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 very slow down that. You know, one instant I did that. The other one was, of course, the cable. And while going, it was closed. It's a closed one where 4 people can sit in it. But when we're coming back, you know, they take us to a place where they tell you stand here, this place, you stand here. So you just stand and you look out. And the cable comes from behind. The seat comes from behind. It comes from behind. It just picks you up and takes you out. In no time, you're outside. And it's not a closed one. It's just a 2-seater which was open totally. There was no rod in front also to hold on. As you're moving, suddenly you'll see one thing will come up from behind and it locks, and then you get this thing from rod for holding on to it, and then you're going right down. And it was really very scary. So it was an experience, you know, really. And my daughter was sitting near me and taking pictures. And here I'm scared and hanging on to life, hanging on to the road, to that rod, you know, for life, thinking I'd fall anytime. That's the feeling you get, especially when you're going down. Need some guts to do.
It sounds like a machine on somebody's side. Vani, I'll put you on mute and unmute. You just control your speaker. Yeah, I was just telling Vani, I'll control the mute here. Yeah, so again, and maybe now when I'm speaking, you have to turn down your speaker. Yeah. So again, the topic that we have been telling stories to illustrate is the importance of making a decision, making a wise decision, whether or not to try risky behavior. Sometimes it's worth the risk, sometimes it's not. So the point of the speech would be, you think, you decide wisely, don't be pushed into it by anybody else.
But you seize that moment.
Wait, go ahead.
No, you seize that moment, isn't it? When you make a decision at that moment, you seize the moment that you want to do something, and you go ahead and do it.
But you may seize the moment by deciding I'm not going to do it. That it's not smart to do it. That's another way to seize the moment.
The decision is made at that time.
Yes. Okay. So the whole point of this discussion was the original point that I think Vani, you were requested to come up with a story that illustrated the point. Seize the day. But the story you chose raised a lot of questions. So again, something like that comes up again. I suggest gather 4 or 5 stories, tell each one of them, get feedback, and see if people raise any issues.
I have actually prepared.
One second. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have actually prepared a story because sir told me to prepare something related to carpe diem or make hay while the sun shines. God helps those who help themselves. But this time it is a fictional fairy tale. So you want me to narrate it as a story now or later? After the discussion.
Just a moment, Vani. If I could just put in a word and then you could maybe continue on this. Actually, when sir told the story of stone soup, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was so impressed by that story, and I actually did a retelling with Seema. And in that story, actually, I sort of tried to do how the person started doing the stone soup. I sort of did a narrative on that. And I did something like he came to a strange land. He wanted water. He was very thirsty. He wanted water, but he remembered his mother saying that he should not drink water from strange places before boiling it. So he took the metal pot, took water, and started boiling it. And a stone in his pocket inadvertently fell into the water. And a small boy ran to him and asked him, "Uncle, what are you cooking?" He laughed. "Oh, are you asking what am I cooking?" Then suddenly he said, "Okay, I am cooking stone soup." I thought, and then this question is an opportunity. The boy could have asked, "Uncle, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Okay. So this story came to mind in relation to the stone soup story. This is a story about how the man started this practice of doing stone soup.
This is something where he sees the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Hello?
Yes, Renu, your picture is frozen,
Hello?
but I think we all
Can hear
heard
you
what you
though.
said.
Hello?
Yes. Who's saying hello? Is it Renu? Oh, there, yeah, Renu, you're back with us. Yes. Okay. Good. So Renu, what was the what was this new story you made up? What was the real impetus? Why did you make it up? What did you want to communicate with this new story?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that even when a person does not have anything like training or education, he does inherit something from his parents. Because if the mother hadn't said you must boil the water, then he wouldn't have boiled it. And he had not, seized the opportunity of the opportunity came up. If it hadn't came up, that is different. The opportunity does come up by the boy asking, "What are you cooking?" That is the opportunity. He seized the opportunity by the native shrewdness. He said it is stone soup. He would have said, "No, I'm not cooking anything. I'm just boiling water." He immediately said, "I was cooking stone soup." That was his native shrewdness.
Okay, good.
So I felt yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you do have something inherited from your parents always. You do get an opportunity. We must be aware of these two and always seize the two.
So you've raised the issue of that it's a good idea to boil water when you're going into a new village. For health purposes, we should boil water, which is not really part of the original story, but the original story put this in your mind, so you've added it. It's good.
Also, we can interpret it as he actually also sees the moment. He sees that opportunity. When the boy actually accidentally asks him, "What do you cook?" And now he's actually made a living for himself. He goes doing that from village to village.
So seize the moment can also mean be alert, be on the lookout for opportunities and dangers. Yeah. Sometimes it's wise to jump, sometimes it's wise to do nothing.
Eric, I have one thing about
go ahead. Yes.
God helps those who help themselves.
Okay.
One real true incident happened, and many people sit back and think, "Oh God." Those who have a lot of faith in God, they think that He will do everything for them, and they sit back and think they get results. So many instances like that happen. So there was one boy. He was very resilient, so much of faith. He got very sick, got jaundice, at a very high stage, and he refused to take medical help. Even though everybody told him that you must see a doctor, you have to take your medicines or follow his advice and then you will get better. He refused to do it and he said, "No, I will pray. God will help me. I will get better. God will help me. I will get better." And so refused to go to a doctor. And finally, what has happened is he deteriorated, his health deteriorated. And then he died. So that's a clear thing that God did not answer his prayers. See, because he should make an effort to do something for himself, He should have gone seen a doctor. He should have taken some medication. He should have tried his best and then left the rest to God. There is another saying also, do your best and God will do the rest. That is also there. But obviously, he didn't make any effort to do anything at all. And he just said, I am going to pray and I will get cured. I will get better. There are a lot of people who keep saying this, and refusing to do anything else. Not only, but even like when it comes to studies, when it comes to something else also, they will not put in their effort. They will not work hard to study, and they feel, okay, I'll pray and I will pass. God will help me to pass and I'll get along. But that is not a good thing at all to do. I mean, God is there to help you, but also you have to do what you need to do. Only then will He answer your prayer and He will assist you. Because I think even if there is a doctor to help you, I think that doctor is also sent by God only. Anybody who comes into your life, it is all planned by God that this person should come into your life, this person should help you, this person should do something for you. So you need to take advantage of that instead of just sitting back and expecting miracles to happen. That will never happen.
There is a Christian sect in the USA called Jehovah's Witness, which don't believe in any sort of medicine. And sometimes their children get sick and die, and the U.S. government sometimes raises a case against the parents. So it's a big, philosophical question about freedom of choice versus does the state have a responsibility to protect citizens? Did somebody else want to say something about this?
Yeah, I want to narrate a very short story about what Jeanette said. There was a guru and a student, and the guru was teaching the student that whatever you see is God. Everything is God. Every person is God. Every animal is God. Every plant is God. The student was quite impressed by the tutoring that he thought, I'm going to test this statement. I believe it, but I'm going to test it. So he went away and he kept saying, whomever he encountered, any person, any animal, oh, this dog is God. This tree is God. This person is God. This person is, that was what he was saying to himself, and he kept walking. At that time, there was a elephant that got a bit mad. And it was coming, attacking each and every person, each and everything that it saw. Then everyone said, the mahout said, "Hey man, go away! This elephant got mad. Go away!" He kept saying. But he thought, this elephant is God. It will not harm me. This elephant is God. It will not harm me. He said, and he kept walking. The elephant, it lifted him and threw him away. Then he got a lot of injuries in him, and he slowly went back to his guru, and he asked his guru, "Sir, you said everything is God. I believed it. I thought that the elephant was God, but it did not save me. It threw me away." The guru said, "Sit down. Tell me what happened." He said everything. Then he said, "You believed that the elephant was God." "Yes, I did." "Why didn't you believe that the mahout was God? Why didn't you listen to him?" God, he asked. That's my story.
Nice one.
So, but if everything is God, then you must accept everything, right? And you should not deny anything.
Living in paradise.
Living in paradise.
Everyone is at the powers of God, and life is so different.
I want to say something. I think God has given us this most powerful gift of thinking. So I think we should put our mind also to some use, not blindly believe anything and everything, because even the gift of the power of thinking, we have been blessed with it. So I think we should make use of that first before blindly following anything or everything.
Yeah. This sort of reminds me of a story from the Mahabharata, actually. in terms of seeing God everywhere. Where what happens actually is this is after the Mahabharata, after it's over, and Krishna's they say that after the end of the Mahabharata, after I think 36 years or so, Krishna passed away. So this is in that range of time. But in that range of time, in the kingdom, in the flourishing kingdom of Dwaraka at that point, there was this very learned Brahmin called Uttanga. And this Uttanga actually was, somehow he got a boon from Krishna. He was a very learned Brahmin, and with a lot of things, he got a boon from Krishna. And what the boon that Krishna gave him finally was that, when I don't know the entire thing, I just sort of know it in I vaguely know it right now. Whenever you want water, you will get, whenever you get thirsty, you will get water. So that was the boon he got. Whenever you're thirsty, if you wish for water, you'll ask. If you wish and ask for water, you'll get it. And so Uttanga accepts this boon, and he's walking through a desert one day. It's very hot. He feels very thirsty. So he thought, okay, I may as well test this boon. So he closes his eyes and prays to Krishna for water. And after he prays to Krishna for water, he opens his eyes. There's no sudden river. There's no sudden pond. There's no sudden lake. So he's like, okay, this guy has lied to me. Something has happened. Let's continue trying. So he continues to pray, but nothing happens. And he's feeling very disappointed. So he continues to walk. He has no other choice. So he continues to walk. He's walking. The sun is blazing down on him. He's starting to get very faint. He's starting to be very fatigued. When suddenly he sees coming up in front of him what they used to call a Chandala. A Chandala, that is an untouchable person. The person was very dirty with matted hair. The hair was dirty. He was barely attired in rags. And that too, the rags were made of animal skin. And he just looked like such a terrible sight, such a dirty sight. He stank. He probably hadn't had a bath in many years. So this person in front of him stank. And this person came up to him and said, "Oh, you good sir, you look like such a distinguished Brahmin. What are you doing in the desert? Why are you suffering here?" And Uttanga told him, no, I'm on my way to the neighboring kingdom. Now I'll just be going. I'll just leave. And he's trying not to go very close to him at all because he stinks, he looks dirty. So Chandala tells him, "No sir, you look very tired and thirsty. You're such a venerable, honored soul. I should give you something. Here, I have some water in my animal skin bag. Let me give you some water." This man is shocked. Uttanga is shocked. He's thinking to himself, I asked Krishna to give me water whenever I wanted. But this is not what he gives me. How can he expect me to get water from somebody like this, from some untouchable person? What was Krishna thinking in his head? I'll never drink anything that this person gives me. He gets very angry and he marches away. And somehow he finally makes it to Dwaraka, and he goes in front of Krishna and says, "Krishna, I thought you told me you'd give me this boon. Why didn't you give me this boon?" Krishna looks at him and says, "Why? What happened? You wanted water, you got water. It's not my fault you didn't take water." This Uttanga says, "But how could I have taken water from him? He was so dirty. He had water in an animal skin. It wasn't even a clean animal skin. He just skinned a carcass and put water in it. Heaven only knows what was in it. I couldn't have drank that water." Krishna comes and tells him, do you know what? That Chandala was actually me. And what was in that animal carcass was not water at all. It was nectar. It was the nectar of immortality. I wanted to check to see whether after being so learned, you learn to dispose of all of your segregation and ideas of segregation being mortals. Clearly you haven't, so your chance is lost. I won't be offering immortality or nectar to you ever again. Good day, bye-bye. And that was that. So that, it caused real impact on this man, because now he realized what she said in her story. There is actually God in everyone, literally. Except in this case, it was more of a test that was set for him, but that was his takeaway from that story.
Very good. Okay, we have actually had a storytelling session here, which is natural that when someone tells a story on a particular topic, other people naturally will come up with similar stories on a related topic, from a different angle, for different varieties on a theme. So that it's wonderful when that happens, and that just happened spontaneously. So now let me say a few words about the written stories that people sent to me, and then we'll hear Bonnie. You can tell your story, and if somebody else wants to tell a new story, we'll do that. Annapurna,
Yes.
you sent a couple. Well, you sent the audio recordings and the written story. The audio recordings, you agree about the lion and the mouse and the transgender, that in the future you're going to try to act out the voices with more individual quality and with more emotion. And by the way, the stories that we've just had this morning, there's been a lot of great acting and very animated. So largely in the dialogue now. The written story you sent, there was wonderful use of water as a metaphor. That first the character was weeping, then dark clouds of disappointment were above, that were threatening to burst at any minute, drenching and drowning her. So that's the destructive side of water. But then suddenly, without a reason, the clouds went away when a certain character did a certain thing. And the ice thawed, and communication slowed. So there, the water had turned into ice, everything was frozen, but then it thawed. And then finally at the end, there was a shower of raindrops splattered on the earth, bringing to life the wonderful smell of the earth, of the soil.
Yeah.
So it kind of came full circle, because at the beginning she was weeping, tears were coming, but it was only a sad thing.
Right.
But at the end, the water was coming from the sky, and it was a nurturing thing. So you followed that metaphor of water and ice throughout the whole story, and it accompanied the human action. So it was very beautiful like that. Okay. Then Krithika.
Yeah.
You really like to play with different voices. Krithika told one or two stories in the second person, saying, "You are walking on a road. You are seeing this. You are feeling this. You are hearing this." It's almost like a guided visualization that you're talking the reader through an experience. Why do you do that? Well, how did that come to you? Do you just enjoy doing it sometimes?
The one about the speech therapist,
Echoing.
I did that with echoing. I think.
Why is it? Oh, I have to mute myself.
Okay. The one about the speech therapist, the reason I did that was I was trying to bring, like, I wanted a way for the reader to like completely put themselves into the role of the mother, because the highlight is on her. Like in the first part, like it's what she's feeling, and the vast. I didn't think I'd be able to bring it across if I said things like, oh, she was very sad because her son wasn't talking. It didn't really. It wouldn't come out that way. So that was why I did for the other one. Other than that, I'm not sure. It started off with a challenge. Can I write a story in future tense? Can I do this? That was just a challenge. For what the other one, it was written in future tense. That was just a challenge. I don't know why I did that. This one, it was done on purpose. The one about the speech therapist was done on purpose. The other one, the third one, where it's not mostly in second person, it's only the beginning and the end in second person. I actually added that later. I don't know why I added that. I just added that later. I consciously came to the decision to use this only for the one about the speech therapist, that is the student, and the mother of the son who has a speech delay.
we might as well mention that the story is about a mother who has a son who's 6 years old who doesn't talk. His speech is delayed. So the story is written in such a way that it says you walk into the clinic, you see this doctor, you see that doctor, you sit down. So she's talking you, the reader, through it as if you are the mother. And then the second half is she writes it about the doctor. He works with the child. He does this and that. And at the end, the child speaks, and he is, the doctor is very happy. So it goes from that first part, you, the mother, to the second part, he, the doctor. And that use of future tense was very interesting in another story. It's one character is saying, well, I guess it's in her. Is it the narrator or is it the character who's speaking that way?
The narrator is talking about a person who is boarding a flight. So
yeah, the narrator is a character. It's a woman who suspects her husband is being unfaithful. So she says you will take a flight, you will do this, you will do that. So it's like she's imagining what he will do, but it's a feeling that this is something that he has done many times in the past. And she's just kind of suffering because she's saying, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. I don't like it, but it seems there's nothing I can do about it. So it creates a sense of something that would happen many times in the past, and that's just inevitable for the future. What was it, Krithika? What was the connection between her husband at home and the man that she saw on the airplane?
It was meant to be the same guy, actually.
But if she saw him on the airplane, she would recognize him, he would recognize her?
He didn't pay attention to the flight attendants at all. He
didn't recognize that the flight attendant was his own wife?
He had to leave her party and then come home. He didn't link her with the person. That's why with the person. That's why it's like he never even looks at.
I don't know. That's
went that way, but it didn't really.
you have to fix that a little bit in this story, because maybe she's wearing a mask as a flight attendant or something. Maybe she's wearing a wig, so he doesn't recognize her. The flight attendant actually sees him flirting with another woman, and then she comes home, and her husband's at home, and her husband takes a call from another woman. So, so first on the job, she's seeing some man carrying on with a woman, and then at home. But I didn't realize it wasn't clear whether it was the same man or not. Okay.
It could be just, I don't have to be like, in my head they're the same person, but it could be that there's a parallel between the random
all right, well you need to clarify that a little bit, one way or the other.
The fact that the third one was a result of a prompt, actually. I got one of those things where you get four random words you have to random themes you have to include. The prompts were, I think, factory, architect, something and something. Factory, architect, teddy bear, and...
the teddy bear factory. Okay.
Yeah. And it ended up with this whole Bollywood as reunion story that was planned at all. It just sort of happened.
And Renu, your story about the person walking in the compound. You like to write stories like where you take your reader down memory lane, right? Where you're taking them through the memories and the thoughts of a character. It's a very engaging way to write. So it's all in flashbacks. Okay, so in general, then I sent some thoughts about how to modify a written story to tell it, because in written stories, often the medium of writing lends itself to a lot of commentary by the narrator and a lot of commentary and internal thinking by characters, and it's all about the words, very precise words. So all of that it doesn't really fit the spoken medium, because usually we're not going to memorize a lot of commentary and a lot of internal thinking. With spoken stories, it's more geared towards action. What happened next? What happened next? What happened next? So my suggestions were, if you have a written story that you want to tell, first think about what is the story really about for you? What is your takeaway? It may not be the takeaway for your listener, but what is your connection to this story? What is it really? Why are you telling it? Why do you love it? What does it mean to you? So you identify the key relationships, the key emotions, the key motivations in the story. And then you identify the key moments in the story where that comes out, or where there's conflict, where there's contest, where decisions are made, turning points. You identify turning points, and those are the places that you really do want to either have dialogue between characters, or have the character speak like in a speech bubble, speaking to herself. Why did I do this? Or, okay, now I had a choice. I could go this way or I could go that way. What should I do? That's called a soliloquy in theater. Yeah, so you're using the narrator to set the scene, to give exposition, which is the past and the background, and you're bringing us to the present, to the scene, and then the scene takes place. So yeah, if you can shape, modify a written story in this way, I think it will. You'll be able to hold your audience if you tell it as a spoken story. If you tell a spoken story with a lot of commentary by the narrator and characters, generally there's a danger of losing your audience.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, anyone have any comments, additions, responses to what I just said? About difference between spoken stories and written stories?
Much could be, communicated with the tenor of the voice.
Yes, in a spoken story, of course, we can use our voice and our facial expressions and our gestures, whereas in a written story, you have to write all those things down. But that means also, when in a spoken story, really, you should not say, he said angrily, ... Yeah. You should express it just with your actions. You should not have to duplicate it with verbal descriptions. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and an enactment is worth 1,000 words of description. So when you're telling, describe less and be it, become it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now, Bonnie, you're going to tell a story that you've written, which is kind of like a fairy tale, has a flavor of a fairy tale, and there's going to be a little bit of dialogue?
Yes.
Good. Okay, does anyone else have any sort of story that they are prepared to tell, that they want to tell today?
I would like to tell a story.
Wonderful. Okay, so you'll be next. Anybody else?
I'd like to try telling one of my stories, maybe.
Okay, great. I think that'll be enough then for today. And then we have 2 more sessions. And also, please, everyone, make recordings and send it to me, or put it on YouTube. Or really, part of this course is everyone is invited to have a 20, 25-minute one-on-one session with me. So if you, either in person for you people in Chennai, or by Zoom. So if you'd like to have a private session, and we can record the private session if you like. If you want to record yourself telling a story, we can make you full screen, and we can just make a recording, and then you can put that recording on YouTube. So there's a lot you can do between today and next Sunday. You can write and send it to the group. You can make recordings and send it to the group. You can have a private session with me if you like. Of course, you can have private sessions with each other. But then after today, we'll have 2 more sessions to go over the material and hear more stories. Okay, so now we're going to hear the story composed by Vani that has the flavor of a fairy tale. Okay, go ahead.
Once upon a time, long, long ago, there lived a king and queen in a very prosperous kingdom. But they were really sorrowful because they were childless. The king and queen tried so many different things, but nothing worked. One day, one wise man visited the king, and he said, "Oh, great king, you have to face a few hurdles and go to the faraway forest and get a magical flower. This will be the solution to your problems." And they set out with a group of soldiers, trusted men, and bodyguards. After facing a lot of hurdles, he did manage to find that magical flower called Rapunzel. Now he was ecstatic. As he was taking the flower to the palace, there was one old, very frail woman who was actually a witch. She was hiding behind a bush. "This king has taken away my flower. This flower is meant for me. But I am weak and I'm frail and I'm powerless right now. I needed this flower to become youthful and get all the powers in this world. I cannot attack him now. He's surrounded by his bodyguards. But I will take my revenge on this king." And now the king was unaware of all this. So he happily went to the palace. The queen inhaled the scent of the magical flower Rapunzel and ate a few petals. After 9 months, she delivered a beautiful baby girl. Her hair was magical blonde and her eyes were almond-shaped. She was the most beautiful child in the whole world. They named her Rapunzel after the flower which blessed them with this baby girl. After 2 nights, this baby girl, Rapunzel, was kidnapped by the old witch. By the time the king and queen learnt about this, it was too late. Though they sent all their armed forces and civilians in search of baby Rapunzel, all was in vain. Now the queen couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't even sleep. Both the king and queen were heartbroken. Their only joy was lost. After a few days, after a few months, the queen paled in her health. She became a shadow of her former self and was reduced to an invalid on the bed. Meanwhile, long, long away, in a far distant land, Rapunzel grew up to be 17 years old. And all these years, she believed the witch was her real mother. They lived in a very high tower with a single window, and the only way to reach the top of the tower was stand down. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, please let your hair down so that I climb thy beautiful." And Rapunzel, she thought she was helping her mom and she was keeping safe in the tower. Rapunzel now had a cute little pet, a chameleon called Pascal. He was funny and totally loyal and devoted to Rapunzel. He could change colors depending on his mood. Now he was green and he was happy. Every night, Rapunzel and the witch would hold hands with Rapunzel's magical hair intertwined between their fingers. And the witch would chant and chant and chant, and every day get some few powers from Rapunzel's magical hair and thus become youthful forever. She asked Rapunzel to never cut her hair. In case she cut even a single strand, all the magical powers would be lost forever. All was good and well in the hood. But one night, the witch made sure that she was indeed asleep, went into a small chamber and took out a magical mirror. She said into it, "Hey, evil wizard, you have to give me the magical potion at the far end of the forest near the lake by tomorrow. This poor creature Rapunzel thinks I am her mother. She has no clue she is the real princess of this kingdom. When she turns 18, I am going to transform her into a witch and bind her to me forever. I will feed on all her magical powers and remain the most youthful and most powerful sorceress in this whole world." That's it. Rapunzel had actually overheard this invitation. Her whole world turned upside down in a single moment. She was heartbroken. She woke up Pascal. "Pascal, get up. You have to listen to this. I'm really worried for us." And Pascal turned a bright shade of red because he was chilled to the bone too. Now Rapunzel was restless. What am I to do? What am I to do? How can I go back to my parents? The witch is evil. And now she devises a plan and tells this to Pascal. Pascal says, "Rapunzel, we cannot do this. We cannot do this. We are too weak. I'm nervous, Rapunzel. I can't imagine you doing this. If the witch catches us, she will kill us. There's no doubt about this, Rapunzel." But Rapunzel says, "You have to do this, Pascal. I believe in you. We have to save ourselves. No one will come for us." And then they set into action. Rapunzel gets a bottle which is hidden in the stash of the witch, and she pours its contents into a silk kerchief and makes sure that the witch is asleep and holds it near her nose. The witch becomes unconscious for a long time. Now Rapunzel does something totally unimaginable. She cuts her hair. She cuts her magical golden hair. Now it loses all its magical properties. It turns a dark shade of brown, but still it is strong. She binds the witch with her hair, some of her hair, and the rest she weaves it into a very long braid. Now she asks Pascal to tie one end of the braid to the bar of the window, and slowly she climbs down the high tower. When she reaches down, she calls out to Pascal, "Now is the time, Pascal. You have to prove yourself." And Pascal turns a shade of light blue, light green, and light yellow because he's mixed with nervousness and anxiety about what to do next. And slowly he unties the braid tied to the bar of the window and closes his eyes and jumps. Rapunzel quite skillfully catches Pascal, and now she even collects the cut-off braid and runs for her dear life because she doesn't want the witch to climb down using her hair. Now she wanders into the forest. They walk and walk and walk, but they are lost. They are tired, hungry, thirsty. Finally, they come across a young, handsome man, Flynn Rider. Rapunzel confesses, "I am the princess of this kingdom. Please take me to the king and queen." Flynn Rider is really suspicious. "Young lady, you seem to be lost. I know you seem to be starving, but I can't believe you because our princess Rapunzel had magical golden blonde hair. But sorry to say, your hair is dark brown and it seems like a pixie cut. How can I believe you? Please, you have to believe me. I was kidnapped by a witch. Please take me to the king and queen." The earnestness in her voice and in her eyes moved Flynn Rider, and he did take them to the king and queen. When Rapunzel and Pascal reached the palace, the king was ecstatic because he could recognize Rapunzel, the almond-shaped eyes, and though she had lost her magical hair, the king instinctively knew she was his daughter. He asked her to see the mother. She was an invalid, bedridden, on the verge of death, pale skin, deathly white. Rapunzel couldn't stop herself. She starts crying. Oh, poor mother, what has become of you? You've been so sick for me all these years. And her tears, as they touched the queen's cheeks, suddenly her hand and skin close and she becomes healthy. The family is reunited now. But there, what happened to the witch in the high tower? She did regain consciousness after 3 days. But now, without Rapunzel's magical hair, she cannot climb down from the tower. And at the same time, without the magical power of the hair, all her own magical powers began to wane and diminish. And she became the old, frail woman which she was from many centuries. And she was reduced to dust in the high tower. After a long time, the king announced to the kingdom that Rapunzel would be the successor. This time, Pascal was so ecstatic he turned rainbow colors. And inevitably, Rapunzel did marry Flynn Rider, but she was the ruler of the kingdom and a very wise, benevolent, thoughtful, compassionate ruler. So that was my fairy tale, and all of them lived happily ever after.
Okay. I think we can. So now that was a modified version of a story that we all know. So are you saying that you made those modifications? Tell us a little bit about how you came to make the modifications.
Okay, I just wanted to retain the exposition, the setting, the names of the characters, because Rapunzel in the original Grimm Brothers story is a very docile, obedient kind of a girl. But I wanted her to be a rebel princess. Though all the 17 years she believed the witch was her mother, and so she was happy to abide by whatever she said. When she came to know that she's been taken for a ride, she wanted to prove herself that she is really a rebel princess and she can save herself. She doesn't have to wait for a knight in a shining armor to come and rescue her. She has to act on her own with whatever meager resources. She knows she's fighting against somebody really powerful, and she only has Pascal to help her. And Pascal is really nervous. He's not very powerful, but friendship and loyalty goes a long way. So even two maybe slightly not so strong people, if they put their brains together and have that power of faith and love, they can, I think, conquer somebody even more powerful than them.
Okay. Great. So everyone bring to mind those 4 questions that I suggest that we ask after we tell a story, right? Does anyone remember any of them?
What did you like?
What did you like? Do you have any suggestions?
What is the moral of the story? What is the key takeaway?
What is your takeaway?
That's the big one. That's the last one. The first one is something you liked. Then, do you have any suggestions? Then, does it remind you of anything else? And then finally, what's your takeaway? What meaning do you get out of it? And how do you connect with the story? So obviously, this won't happen in order. Usually people will jump to the last one first. Just like Vani began to talk about in response to my question, what her takeaway from it was, what her meaning, what her intention was. But in a good conversation, you try to touch upon all 4 of these points. And when possible, try to get answers from your listeners before you go into too much of your own feelings. So Vani, why don't you conduct a conversation, lead a conversation for a couple of minutes using these 4 questions in any order. You don't have to follow the order.
So what did you feel about this revamped fairy tale which I just narrated? Any suggestions for improvement? Or what touched you more? Anything moving moments?
I feel like Flynn didn't have a role.
You feel like what?
Flynn didn't really have a role. So could there be some way you could the Flynn rider? Am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute.
You are. We can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
say it again. Please say it again.
Flynn Rider, like you said, you wanted to keep her a regal princess and do things on her own. So for that, you could have like completely ignored him, ignored the guy, and said and talked about how she got home on her own. Or you could have given him a bigger role, like maybe she rescued him from somewhere. If you really wanted to keep her valiant nature, or not valiant, her resourcefulness and her strength of mind and all, then you could have had her rescue him. Because right
Yes.
now it's just like he's there, but okay, he's there.
She replaced him with the little, it was a dog, right? A little dog?
No, she's asking about the Flynn Rider.
I know, but did she have a pet dog?
Chameleon.
Okay, the chameleon kind of took the place of the prince, her pet chameleon. And in the story that we all know, at the end, her tears cause her would-be to revive. But here, that was switched to her mother. So in general, the prince was given a much smaller role, and he was replaced by these other characters. And we understand why now, because she wanted to make it a more proactive story about her, more about her, and not so much about her being rescued by a prince. I thought it was very interesting the way when she cut off her hair, she kind of lost her external identity of having this beautiful golden hair.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop her. Other people were a little confused, but she wasn't confused. She still knew who she was. So I appreciated that message. Okay, anyone else have any thoughts on any of these points? Things you enjoyed, your suggestions? Does it remind you of anything else? And how did you feel about the modification she made? Any aspect of the story?
Well, the valor should be appreciated, I felt. But the pet chameleon was just changing colors. Was it, I thought it might have contributed more so that, because when Vani was speaking, she said that she didn't just mention the valor, she also mentioned the friendship. How two people sit together and conquer a person more powerful. So I felt that the pet could have played a better role.
For example, what? What else could she have had the pet do?
Maybe it could have suggested that you could do it this way. You could escape that way. Not just being nervous, because the pet's world is its master. So it is not really afraid of what is around. It is concerned only about its master. So the pet could have sort of helped, and if it had helped, it would even add to the magical value of the story.
The pet also, it could have been a sort of a go-between between her and the prince, or even between her and her mother. It could have been, sending messages back and forth.
Sending messages, or at least it would have suggested how she could escape and all that. Maybe it could have provided a smoke screen, screaming, so that when the witch is looking at the pet, she could have escaped. So many things.
But it was a very interesting motif that the chameleon changed colors according to its emotions. Usually chameleons change colors according to its background. If it's on a green wall, it will turn black. If it's on a green wall, it will turn green. But this was an emotion changing. The emotions caused it to change colors. I thought it was very interesting that the witch was she was not only after the She was trying to steal the identity and life of the girl on numerous levels, both to kind of steal her vitality and to steal her royalty, to steal her power,
Revenge, even revenge.
to get revenge.
Because the king stole Rapunzel's flower.
Yes, but that was not such a terrible crime, was it? That he wanted it. You know, in the original version, the father is pushed into it by the pregnant mother.
Yes.
The pregnant mother says, "I really want it," but then he gets caught. So it's not such a big crime to take a little vegetables, but the witch uses that as an excuse, as a justification for taking the child. Okay. Anybody else? Any thoughts about the story? So Vani, how do you feel about the story now that you've told it and you've gotten some feedback about it? What are your feelings about it? Go ahead.
So yeah, I thought I had read an article about fairy tales for rebel princesses. I didn't read the stories as such, but that was an article in the newspaper where I think the whole idea of presenting fairy tales as bedtime stories to kids, like shaping their minds, should be revamped because times have changed, and so maybe give more importance in relying on yourself rather than trying to find help from somebody else. Think it out and do it on your own. So I got this thought, and so I thought I'll apply this to a well-known fairy tale like Rapunzel. So that was the main motive behind the story.
Good.
And yeah, I wanted to add this, since Sai Renu had suggested that Pascal have more of an importance in this story. It is actually a difficult thing to jump from that high tower. Though Pascal is a chameleon, he had to close his eyes, untie the braid from the window bar, and he had to, it was a leap of faith, because if Rapunzel didn't catch him, he could have as well lost his life. So that is like he's blindly believing in the power of Rapunzel, that she will protect him. She is there. So I thought that is a good way to show friendship and loyalty. Though he
In
was
that
not-
case, you could bring out the suspense more. Because right now you made it seem like it was the foregone conclusion. He jumped, she caught him. But if you're like, okay, he was standing up there, he was terrified, it was a very long way down, and Rapunzel looked up to see it as small something, whatever, I don't know. So then he jumped, and then he was suspended in his fall, and what seemed like, hours later, Rapunzel somehow managed to catch him, then it'd be like, okay, he's gone through an ordeal. Now it's like he jumped, she caught him.
But in this version, she cut off her own hair and tied it up. So she made sure she took responsibility for her own safety, for her own escape method. So she wasn't depending on a prince, on a witch, on a chameleon. She sacrificed her beauty very smartly in order to escape safely. There's one other thing that I wanted to say. I forgot, but it'll come back. Okay, so shall we move on to another story? Okay. So who's the next person who's going to tell?
I would like to, but does somebody else want to say something? Because I think I've already told one today. So.
I think Hema was going to, but Hema, can you hear us? I think Hema's having connection difficulty.
My microphone is muted.
I think Krithika, go ahead.
Her microphone's muted. I'm not sure if she's trying to talk. But
Oh, Hema?
Hema's microphone is muted.
Unmute.
I'm not really sure what's going on. See her. Okay. I'm just gonna try to modify one of the stories I wrote for retelling. I'm doing it as I go along. It is really prepared, but I have like an idea in my head. So I'm just gonna start like just straight start into it. It is based on something that could be a real life incident. It's not my real life incident though. There are some careers out there where it's all boys. Like if you look at engineering, it's like, 80 boys, 90 boys. And my classmates, most of my school friends, they go to their class and they say, oh, we only have 2 girls in our class. And that's a pretty normal situation. For me though, in the course I'm in what I'm doing, I am the only boy in my class. And even more so, what I'm doing is not engineering, it's not medicine, it's not law. The question I get asked the most often is, what are you studying? And that takes a big lecture to answer. You see, what I'm studying is speech therapy. And in my class, I am the only boy. There are 40 of us, of which there are 39 girls. And then there's me. And very often, everyone will come and ask me, why did you take this? What are you doing? You should get a better career. For example, last night, we had visitors at home. My uncle had come from Kuwait and he asked me, what are you doing, son? What are you doing? So I said, uncle, I'm studying speech therapy. We learn to diagnose and treat people who have problems with their speech or their language. And he started on a lecture. He was like, oh, come on. So you're a nursery school teacher. My son, he did his BE in computer engineering and he just passed out last year. He's already earning so many lakhs. You should have put better thought for your future. So he lectured me. He lectured me on and on and on and on and on. And I was only half listening because I was starting to have doubts too. You see, the only reason I had chosen this particular field was because I hated math. And because I hated math, I couldn't go to engineering. So I decided to study something like this, speech therapy. And it's been very hard for me. I'm doing my second year right now. And all year, I'm surrounded by girls, surrounded by children, surrounded by people who look at me in this very odd way, as in, why is a boy doing something like this? Why is he doing something that he has to sit down and sing nursery rhymes with other children? So and now in my second year, I was honestly starting to consider quitting and going on to engineering, even though I hate mathematics. But then today something happened where I think changed my perception. So today, after yesterday's lecture, I was disappointed. I was really disappointed in life. I had looked up to this uncle as a role model. And after all of this talking, I felt like I really had made a wrong decision in my life. But today when I went to the clinic, I had a test in the morning in class and I failed the test, I'm pretty sure, because I was so depressed and sulking. In the evening when I was supposed to go to the clinic and my regular therapy sessions would come, one particular woman, the mother of one of my particular cases, she came out of the elevator and she came looking with this very odd expression on her face, searching very anxiously for me. Now, I was not really expecting her today because that particular case of mine is a very hard case. That child is very hard to manage, and usually I just tend to spend my entire session trying to run around behind the child, get him settled in place and try to get at least one word out of his mouth. So when this woman came, and it's not even the child's session date today, I wasn't really sure what to do. My other session was already waiting and I was supposed to go and take that session. But this woman came up and she came right up to me and she came and she just looks at me and her eyes are filling with tears. And I was terrified by now. I thought I had done something terrible. I thought I had done something wrong. I thought I was going to be screwed. So she came up to me, her eyes well up with tears. The receptionist is looking at me. Everyone in the waiting hall is looking at me. It felt like time had come to like a standstill around us. Because she wasn't saying anything. She brought her son, the little son that I handled, she brought the son with her. And that child just came up to me and took my hand as though he didn't know that anything different was going on. So he took and he wanted to go to the therapy room and play. But this woman is just looking at me. And I just asked her, you know what, madam, you remember your son's session was yesterday. You can come back tomorrow. it was yesterday and tomorrow, your son's session. You don't have a session today. But then she continued to look at me, and she started to cry. And then she's like, no, it's not that. And I am terrified. I was sure that I was in very bad trouble. The supervisor who was sitting in her office in the corner, she started looking out to see what was going on. And I am still waiting for this woman to come to her point. And she was like, finally, after so long, she was like, I don't know how to thank you. And again, I was lost. Thank me for what? I didn't know what she was talking about. As far as I was concerned, I had just failed a test. I felt like I ought to drop out of this course. So I was like, what do you want to thank me for? There's nothing to thank me for. Why do you need to thank me? She told me, no, it's my son, he spoke to me yesterday. He said his first word. He asked me for a biscuit for the first time ever. And I know it's only because of you. I don't know how to thank you. You were a god to me. No one has ever said anything like this to me before. The entire waiting hall was watching. There were so many people, so many other parents. The receptionist, who was a terrible gossip, was also watching. And apparently my supervisor was also watching. I only found that out later. So she told me this, and I didn't know what to say to her. What do you say to someone when they tell you something like this? If I were older, more experienced, I would have been able to comfort her. But as of now, I was a student. I was a second-year student who had failed an exam and who wanted to drop out of this course. So I just looked at her. Again, now it was my turn to be speechless. I had no idea what to say. And this child who had tried tugging on my hand, trying to get me to go to the therapy room and play, he was still tugging on my hand. This woman is still looking at me. She's still crying. I still didn't know what to do. And after what seemed like hours of waiting, I was saved. And how I was saved, the child suddenly ran off down the waiting hall. And the mother was distracted, so she took off behind him. And then after she left, I was still processing her statement. I still didn't know what to do. It was not something I'd expected. So I turned around, and my supervisor, the one who will probably correct my test later today, she was standing right behind me, and this time she's looking at me. And she was looking at me as though to convey a message. She was like, you see, this is what this is about. This is what this helping people is about. This is what you get out of this. So I looked back at her and I nodded at her because now I understood. Despite people calling me a nursery school teacher, despite not doing engineering and earning in lakhs, despite having to explain what I'm doing to so many people all the time, now I realize that this is worth it. This is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm done.
Very nice.
Okay. Good. I think it's a good decision to tell it from his point of view.
Yeah.
Because we really got into his mind, his emotions. I think you could have said the words of the uncle with, you could have given the uncle an individual voice, like, oh, my son knows how to do everything. My son is making so much money. Why can't you be like my son? You could make him an old man. Very
actually, the uncle is based on my uncle. I could have done that.
Yeah, I would suggest exaggerating him into making him pompous and voice deeper, and maybe he moves with what he says because he's such a big shot. So whoever's telling the story, whether it's a narrator or the young man, I would have the uncle speak in an individual voice like that. Now, one big difference between what you had, the way you performed it just now, and the way you wrote it, is when you wrote it, when the moment that the speech therapist heard that the boy had spoken, the speech therapist said, this makes the whole thing worth it.
Yeah.
The way you told it now, it seems he did not have an immediate emotional reaction of joy and relief and pleasure. He was confused, and he only knew that he was happy when one of his supervisors said, you should be happy. So why
Yeah.
did you change it like that?
I don't know. I just sort of went with the flow. I honestly don't know why I did that. Probably I thought it may be too abrupt of an ending. I don't know.
No, but did in your imagination, when he hears, my son has spoken for the first time, he said, Biscuit, I'm so, glad and I'm so grateful. A wave of joy and satisfaction and relief would come over him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think unless you want to present him as confused and conflicted, go back, whether you're writing it or telling it, go back and let him have his moment of joy as soon as he hears that good news. Unless there's a reason not to. Anybody else? Any other responses to any of the 4 questions?
Yeah. Can you do the mute thing? Yeah.
I think it is a great story because this do what you feel like doing. It is not suitable for a boy or for a girl. So that is a very good point I could connect with. I really love that point.
Yeah, I enjoyed the story too. I think especially the whole point that you chose to speak as a boy, that was very different and very nice. And probably like Eric said, that whole moment of when you realize that he actually uttered, his first word saying a biscuit, that could have been a little more dramatic, could have been more enjoyable. But I want to read your story, so if you could send it to me.
I'll send it,
Yeah.
Well, I was listening to the story, Kritika, as you had intended. I was the boy, and I can understand what was happening. I am a mother with a child having speech delay, so I could follow the story quite well. I could connect it up. But no, I was not the mother when you were telling the story. I was when the dramatic moment came up. When the boy first uttered a word. Eric, I'm sorry, I am contradicting you. Actually, I froze. I was not, realizing the actual joy. Maybe I was, but it was not blatant. It had not come up to the surface. I had actually froze because since it came as a shock after all the confusions and the indecisions and whether to continue the course or to drop the course, whether it is worth it and all that and everything. And when the realization comes to you, yes, it is worth it. It is worth more than the lakhs earned by engineers building inanimate things. And feeling that making an animate boy speak, that is better than all these lakhs of rupees earned, and that maybe that realization, that joy, it maybe it comes up after a bit. I froze actually. I was it was a shock first, and then the joy came up. Maybe after listening to the the supervisor sort of sorting out of emotions. I felt that, Eric, when I listened to the story.
Very good. Good. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I've remembered what I wanted to say about the previous story, Rapunzel. That is a very strong pattern in that story of the good mother and the bad mother. The good mother is ill and weak through most of the story, and so the bad mother becomes very dominant. That's the witch, who wants to control, who wants to steal everything from the young girl, who wants to steal the young girl. but because of the valor and energy and good actions of the young girl, the bad mother is defeated and the good mother is revived. So her behavior helps reset the situation in a positive way, to put down the bad side and raise the good side. Many of these stories have competing, alternating good and bad, especially good and bad mother characters.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any thoughts about anything that we've discussed today? Yes. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, is this way of presenting dialogues all right, or how should it be done? Now, I just tried the first time using dialogues in a fairy tale, but is this okay, or any improvements for suggestions? All of you, sir, and all of you.
I thought in general today the dialogues were great and the characters speaking to themselves were great. My only suggestion, like I said a moment ago about Krithika, was let the Hema, you've come back. My suggestion was let the different characters have a different. Let the characters have a distinct voice, especially that old uncle. But I see a big change, a big improvement in my eyes regarding bringing the stories to life with dialogue. But Bonnie, do you have any doubt about it, or what's your feeling about the dialogue issue?
No, I wanted to know, is this all right, or should I change my voice more when I'm talking from a different character? Now I had talked like Pascal, Rapunzel, the witch, and even a little about Flynn Rider. So I didn't change my voice that much, but for the witch and Pascal, I did try to change a little. So any suggestions for improvement or any feedback about that particular thing?
Vani, it was a great attempt. I really enjoyed the switching over of the voices. You did it with a lot of ease. So I'll be very happy if I can pull something like that off.
Yes, it was great. But with Kritika and also Vani, I would repeat what Eric had said. The voice changing was good when it went over to the softer side, like from the boy to the mother, or from Rapunzel to the chameleon. But as Eric said, when you have to make it bass or make it a bit pompous, and when it has to go down and all that, maybe a bit more of a voice change could be done.
And I have a suggestion. Vani, the flow of the story was a little bit faster. If you reduce, maybe that is my style. I felt so.
Sure, Hema. Next time I'll go slower. Yes, I'll go slower so that everyone understands what I'm actually saying.
I get it. Yeah, that is it.
Okay, so I think it's after 12, so I guess we should stop now. And now I'm gonna stop the recording for one thing. We'll talk for another minute, but the recording will stop now.